podcast listeners have the highest income of any social media platform. Without new leads or opportunities for you to evaluate, without new clients, without new cash flow, you don't have a business. No business whatsoever. Because you need to understand that 99.999% of podcast guests make no money. Don't be one of those. Be part of the 0.00001% that do make money.
Welcome to the Thought Leader Revolution with Nikki Ballou. Join the revolution. There's never been a better time in history to speak your truth, find your freedom, and make your fortune. Each week, we interview the world's top thought leaders and learn the secrets of how they built a 6 to 7 figure practice. This episode has been brought to you by eCircleacademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.
Welcome to an exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. I'm your host, Nikki Ballou, and we're doing another amazing Thought Leader Nugget. And I got to tell you guys, I'm excited because today we're going to talk about the phenomenon that's revolutionizing and sweeping the coaching industry, the industry of using exciting new ways to generate lead sales and clients. And it's get booked and get paid. It's all about how to attract more clients and boost your brand through podcast guest appearances. So, who can benefit from this? Well, if you're a business owner, if you're a coach or a speaker and an author, if you're an attorney, if you're some sort of an agent, like a real estate agent or a mortgage agent, if you're just somebody with a big dream, this can benefit you enormously. And let me tell you what we are going to show you. We're going to show you how you can utilize podcast guesting to make 2025 your best year ever. We're going to talk about old media versus new media. I'm going to talk about how Donald Trump won the election and how Kamala lost and why it matters to you. And I'm going to talk about why you should be a guest on other people's podcasts. And I'm going to talk about the keys to podcast guesting success. So let's roll. Let's roll. Because if you're able to harness podcast guesting, it is the most powerful form of marketing in media today. It doesn't matter if you're a coach, a consultant, a business owner, or running for office, like the President of the United States. When you do this properly, it's going to work for you, and it's going to work tremendously. Why? Because traditional ad-driven media are dying. And in this, I include social media. They're all losing power, relevance, and influence every day. The new media frontier of podcast is in the ascendant, and it doesn't require a massive advertising spend. Yet when you do it properly, it's going to help you attract more high net worth clients, partners, and if you're running for office, even voters. Let's take a look at President Trump. So President Trump, everyone knows his background. He's been a successful real estate investor, a developer, and a business owner, and he was obviously the 45th President of the United States and now the 47th. He's been universally loved by the people and loathed by the elites and the traditional media. And in this election in 2024, he was outspent, he was under political attack, and he even faced assassination attempts. But he had a secret weapon. He got himself a savvy podcast guesting expert advisor, his son Barron, and he got on many top independent podcasts that were heard by hundreds of millions of people. And he won the election. Yup, he won. And so, what happened? What happened? Straightforward, guys. Here's what happened. Trump wins the election because he leveraged podcast guesting. And Kamala lost because she didn't. Remember, she raised $1.4 billion. She had 100% of the legacy media behind her, and the value of that support was $6 billion. She had over $1 billion in outside backing. She spent heavily on ads. She even went into debt, and she still lost. Well, other than all this, Trump himself, he just raised $400 million. A lot of money, but still not $1.4 billion. The legacy media was virtually 100% opposed to him. He had $250 million in outside backing. Again, not nothing, but not nearly as much as she did. He spent sparingly on ads, but he went strong into new media and he won. He won. So what's the legacy media? The legacy media is social media. It's CNN, it's MSNBC, it's CBS, ABC, NBC, Washington Post, New York Times. And the new media are independent podcasters like me, like you maybe, like Joe Rogan, Aiden Ross, Theo Vaughn, Sean Ryan, Valuetainment, Nelk Boys, X Spaces with Elon Musk. And Kamala went deep into her comfort zone of traditional media. She kept speaking to the same voters that already supported her. That's what she did. Trump's innovation was he went where the voters were, kind of like Willie Sutton. Why do you rob banks, Willie? They asked him. He said, because that's where the money is. And my friends, why did Trump go on independent podcasts? Because that's where the voters were. That's right. So what happens on legacy media? Well, they've got these short scripted conversations, and independent podcasters have these long organic conversations. So CNN, MSNBC, CBS, New York Times, Washington Post, these guys had a total reach of maybe 3.1 million voters. That's it. Wow. Joe Rogan had over 100 million views of Trump's interview with him. Theo Vaughn had over 20 million views. The Nelk Boys had over 10 million. Patrick Bet-David over 5 million. Aiden Ross over 3 million viewers. Elon Musk and X Spaces was the king with over 200 million viewers. The total reach of the new media Trump went on was north of 350 million. Okay? People have been losing trust in legacy media, and that includes social media. Why? Well, because they're narrative-driven folks. They're all about pushing a particular agenda. And that's why people stopped listening to them. They lied their butts off to satisfy advertisers and owners. And they gaslit the public. And the people figured it out. New media, on the other hand, has gained the public's trust. Why? Because they're all about long-form content. There's nowhere to hide when you're on new media. You can't lie. There's no agenda. It's just truth-driven versus being advertiser-driven. And there's no gaslighting. Joe Rogan don't gaslight nobody. And you got to understand this. Kamala spoke to people who already were going to vote for her. Washington Post readers, MSNBC viewers. Her echo chamber on social media, they were already going to vote for her. Going there was not good. She didn't go after new voters. Therefore, there were no new customers for her. While Trump, he went after new voters on Rogan, Theo Vaughn, etc. These are listeners to these shows. They were not yet sold on Trump. And going on those shows humanized them. It allowed him to win over new voters, ergo new customers. And the truth of the matter is that being advertiser-driven, being expensive, being scripted is ineffective. There's low to no return on investment. Wow. Being long-form driven, being free to get on, being unscripted and organic is super effective, and the ROI is very high. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Nikki, you sold me on why Trump won, but why does this matter to me? What a great question. Because you need to think differently in 2025. You're the magic. Action is what matters, not whatever current vehicle you've been using to get clients. Opportunities change, vehicles change. Try new things like podcast guesting, guys. You got to be innovative and not be cocky. Innovative like Trump and not cocky like Kamala. You got to be focused on meeting people where they're at, not being focused on what's convenient for you. And podcast guesting is something that can make this happen for you. The boiling point is, what if you went on 100 shows in 100 days? you'd have enough appearances to get a rhythm going, powerful rhythm, and getting that rhythm right matters because it'll help you create sales calls, and then you'll get your rhythm going with sales calls. And you'll get that not only are you the magic, but you're the message. And podcast guesting will let you generate opportunities, lead sales, and clients for yourself. Okay? So if you're a business owner, you got to get the podcast listeners and hosts have the highest income and net worth profile of anybody. And psychologically, they are decisive action takers and doers. They're looking to solve problems and get to the next level. And you got to understand that folks who listen to podcasts and folks who host podcasts get the difference between spending and investing. They believe in investing in themselves and in lucrative business opportunities and projects. They can invest in things like real estate, stocks and bonds, crypto, options, you name it. You name it. Because Donald Trump proved that podcast guesting is the hottest trend in marketing. It's fresh and new. It's a blue ocean. Okay, there's a small window of opportunity to establish yourself as a sought-after podcast guest. It's 12 to 18, maybe 24 months on the outside. And there's no cost to it, but there's a high yield to it as a form of marketing. And that's what President Trump proved. And imagine, if you're a subject matter expert on a podcast, you can reach a large audience, your ideal clients, your ideal buyers, your ideal prospects. You can promote your business. You can sign up new clients. You can raise capital. You can position yourself as the authority in your space. You can accelerate your success and have a way higher impact. And you can add 6 to 8 figures to your income. That's what you can do. Why should you be a podcast guest instead of launch your own podcast? Because you might be thinking, maybe I should just launch my own podcast. Because I'll tell you something. Being a host requires that you invest some money, anywhere from $1,000 to $20,000 a month. It requires 5, 10, 20, 30 hours a week of your time to be a host. It requires you constantly finding new guests. I got to tell you, that is sometimes a challenge. There have been times when I have not had a guest and I've been freaking out because I wasn't able to get a guest fast enough. And it requires creating new content and new marketing all the time. And it takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years of consistent effort to build an audience. I'm not saying don't do it. I love being a host. But I'm saying go in with your eyes open. Because Donald Trump just proved you don't need to invest money in ads. Because buyers don't trust commercials anymore. They don't trust ads. They don't trust traditional media narratives. And the ROI is done on ads. Used to be you could spend $1 on ads and get $20 back in revenue. Today, it's spend $10 and get back $1 to $5, and this is not sustainable. Not sustainable at all. And here's what you got to understand. Without new leads or opportunities for you to evaluate, without new clients, without new cash flow, you don't have a business. No business whatsoever. And your super secret weapon for 2025 is podcast guesting, because it can help you change all of this. And like I've been saying, the biggest secret in marketing today is podcast guesting. Why? Because you don't need to be some dude with a huge marketing budget, or really any marketing budget. Because you don't need to be a tech expert or invest in sophisticated tech, because you don't need to be this amazing salesperson. You just need to be honest and articulate, because you don't need a list. You don't need existing clients. You don't need a well-known brand. You need none of those things. So, Nikki, define podcast guesting for me. Simple. It's being a guest on someone else's show so that we can leverage their audience and podcast to find new clients, new leads, new sales. That's it. So I'm going to give you 5 reasons you should podcast guest right now. In North America alone, 220 million people listen to podcasts. Podcast listenership is up tenfold since 2014. Podcast ad spend in 2024 was $4 billion. And of these 220 million North Americans who listen to podcasts, 76.8% listen to 7 hours of podcast a week. They have a relationship with their podcasts. And right now there's 504 million podcast listeners worldwide. In 2019, there was only 274. Today, there's almost 505 million. Come on, just 5 years. The growth has been huge. So there's 5 more reasons you should podcast guests. There are 5.8 million podcasts in existence. Podcast listeners have the highest income of any social media platform. 38% of the people who listen to a podcast buy books, products, or services mentioned on it. I do this all the time. My God, my library's full of books and courses and programs I bought by listening to podcasts. I've even taken trips by listening to a podcast that made that trip sound amazing. And guys, if you market to women, women listen to 5.7 podcasts a week. So it's a good place to find women. And 35% of listeners have an income of over 6 figures, so they can afford to buy your high-priced programs. It's simple to be a podcast guest, but it's not easy. 99.9999% of people incorrectly assume that getting on a podcast is a secret sauce to making money. I'm saying I'm on a podcast, it's going to happen. Wrong. Nope. If you get on shows and you do it like almost everyone not named Nikki Ballou, i.e. myself, you're going to do yourself more harm than good. You're going to damage your reputation. You're going to position yourself as an amateur and never be asked back on any relevant shows. There's a right way and a wrong way to do podcast guesting and be a sought-after podcast guest. So what you need to look out for, guys, is very straightforward. Because you need to understand that 99.999% of podcast guests make no money. Don't be one of those. Be part of the 0.00001% that do make money. Now, Nikki, why? Why do you say that? Because they just go on a show and vomit all over the host and the audience. And that does not work to get you lead sales and clients, guys. They've got verbal diarrhea. Do not have verbal diarrhea when you go on shows. Terrible idea. Terrible idea. Why else, Nikki? Because they get a lot of bad advice from expensive agencies that spend $2,000 to $20,000 a month. And they're told to have this persona when they go on the shows. And a fake persona like fake news doesn't work in podcasting. It's all about authenticity marketing. You got to authentically be you. You got to authentically be you. Why else? Don't people that go on shows as a podcast guest make money? Because they have a weak intention. A weak intention. Their intention is just to go on a show and have a great conversation and hopefully, hope for marketing, get a client or a lead. So, Nikki, what's in it for me if I go be a podcast guest? Well, you're going to make and raise more money in less time. You're going to get more clients, more sales, more leads with way less headaches. And you're going to have to spend no money on ads or agencies. How awesome is that? So let me tell you my story. So the lockdowns killed my business back in 2022. I lost $500,000 in business in a week. I was freaking out because I didn't have the capital to spend $30,000 a month on ads at that point. I spoke to my coach, Mark Von Muser, and he said, you need to go on podcasts in order to get lead sales and clients. I said, okay. So I went on podcasts out of necessity. And Mark and I, we had me get real strategic because every appearance was reviewed with an after-action report and tested. We went on longer shows, shorter shows. We did direct asks, we did indirect asks. And we really dialed in our message. Over 100 shows to figure out what works and what doesn't. And I got 0 leads or sales or clients on those first 100 shows. But it all clicked on show 101. And I got my first lead, my first sale on that show. And I'm 700 shows in and I'm continuing to refine my approach. And 80% of my appearances result in qualified calls with ideal clients. Would you like to have qualified calls with ideal clients? Sure you would. So, what do people say about me? I'm the world's foremost podcast guesting monetization expert. Okay, I've been a guest on over 700 shows in the last 2.5 years with zero ad agency spend. And I've gotten $500,000 in sales, part-time, 3 to 5 hours a week. And I've trained dozens of entrepreneurs in duplicating my results, and some of them are doing even better than me. So, what else do you need to know about me? I'm a 2-time New York Times bestselling author. One of those books was personally endorsed by Donald Trump on Truth Social on May 7th, 2023. I'm the host of a top 10 iTunes marketing podcast, this one, The Thought Leader Revolution. And as I said, Donald Trump endorsed my work on Truth Social. I've worked with billionaires, Olympic champions, world record holders, and I've been called the world's foremost podcast guesting monetization expert. That is me, Nikki B. And will this model work for you? Yes, it will, provided you know how to get on shows and get these 3 critical steps right. You got to get your message right. You got to get booked on the right shows, not the wrong shows. And you got to get and convert leads from podcasts. That is what you need to learn how to do. So, one of my clients is a great man named Victor Menashe. When I met him, he was a successful business owner and real estate investor. He was making well over 6 figures a year, and he was doing 1 to 10 unit real estate deals. He wasn't happy with that. He wanted to make 7 to 8 figures a year, and he wanted to do 1,000 and 10,000 unit deals. Well, I helped him craft a powerful message and learn how to leverage it. I got him booked on the right shows, and he went from 6 figures to 7 figures in 6 months. And now he's doing 1,000, 10,000 plus unit real estate deals. He built a small city in Colorado. So you need to avoid these 6 mistakes: not having a clear or niche message, not having a clear or niche audience, and being on the wrong podcast. You need to avoid having a poor email pitch. You need to avoid being bad on the air, because that will kill your success. And you need to avoid not having a way to convert listeners into leads and clients. So if you got the wrong message, how do you know? Because you got a hard time attracting podcast guest appearances. And what does this do? Revenues get stuck in the ditch. You're invisible. And when you get your messaging wrong, you waste time, you damage your brand, you get stuck in the sea of sameness, and you make no money. No money. No money at all. And I got to tell you, I've got this incredible client named Michael. He's a Toronto-based accountant who works with investors. He's an introvert. We helped him clarify his message. We got him booked on the right shows. We showed him how to convert. We got him booked on his first podcast as a guest, and he got 14 referrals, and he made thousands and thousands of dollars. And in 90 days, he made just under 90 grand in sales. It was amazing. So what happens when you get booked on the wrong podcast? Well, you waste a lot of time. You damage your brand. You get no leads and you make no money, and it kills your enthusiasm and belief in what you are doing. Okay. So that second mistake, no niche audience. How do you know? You're going after anyone and everyone. And that has you be stuck in the sea of sameness. You don't stand out. Your faith in your dream is dying, and the cycle continues. It continues. And your third mistake, you've got a poor email pitch. How do you know? You're not getting booked on any shows. What's the problem with this? You lose credibility. You lose authority. You stop believing in yourself. That's not good. The fourth mistake, guys, being on the wrong show. How do you know that? You're bored and you're not getting any leads. Come on. And what's the problem with this? Well, you're spinning your wheels and you're not building your credibility or your authority. Guys, I've had this other amazing client, Mathieu from Belgium. English is his fourth language. Okay, he's a coach. He's an expert. We helped him clarify his message. We got him on the right shows. We showed him how to convert. And he got on 10 shows in his first 8 weeks. And he was able to leverage what we taught him to generate 124,000 plus in sales in 84 days. So what happens, guys, when you can't get or convert leads? You waste time, you make no money, and you lose faith in you and in your mission and your dream, and that sucks. And guys, the fifth mistake is being bad on the air. 100 out of 100 podcast guests think they're great on the air. 98 out of 100 hosts tell me they're not. How do you know? You're boring on air, your content isn't fresh, and you stop getting booked. And the problem with this is you lose credibility and authority, and you get no leads, make no money, and you lose enthusiasm for your mission. And the sixth mistake, guys, is you fail to get leads or to convert leads into customers. How do you know? You're not making any money. Simple as that. You're wasting time, you're wasting money, and you've lost faith in yourself and in your dreams. Guys, and I've got this amazing client. I'm going to call her Dr. Diane. This lady had a great skill set, but her marketing was not effective. She was a consultant to a very particular type of medical organization. We helped her nail her message. We showed her how to convert, and she made over $1 million in sales, $1,050,000 in just 32 days, guys. So what's the solution? You got to fix your message, guys. You got to know your niche and your audience. You got to learn how to pitch, host, and get booked on the right shows. You got to learn how to be good, even great on the air. And you got to learn how to get and convert leads, guys. Okay? Your message needs to be strategic, intentional, and relevant. You got to know your niche and audience. Don't try to be all things to all people. You got to learn how to pitch, host, and get booked on the right shows. You got to learn how to be good on the air. Don't suck or your brand is toast. And you got to learn how to get and convert leads. This is the key to making money through podcast guesting. This is it. This is it. Guys, the great Raymond Aaron, the man who's the real OG, real estate investing mentor in Canada, is highly successful, makes millions. When I showed him what guesting is and how it works, he was excited to share it with all his clients, and he was excited to learn it for himself. On the first show he was on, using my methods, he got the host to ask him if he could be his coaching student. How cool is that? And here's a truth bomb from the great Robin Sharma. If you want to double your income in a year, triple your investment in your personal and professional development, it's the fastest and surest way. Don't do it alone. Guys, you are in 2025. If you can deliver a real result for your investors and clients, you're going to win. And I can help you. And here's what I'm proposing to do for you. Okay? Help you get 1 to 2 or more great deals per month. Take your business to the next level, cut your marketing expenses, and increase your profits. How? Guys, jump on a call with me. Go to ecircleacademy.com/appointment. Jump on a call with me. Let's talk about what you're dealing with, and let's talk about how podcast guesting can help. I hope you've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed speaking with you. Podcast guesting is the way forward for you. God bless you. God love you. And until next time, goodbye.
This episode has been brought to you by ecircleacademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.